Every business has a logo, and when it's yours, it matters. GPS is a 30-year local Las Vegas company that produces custom merch, like hats and apparel, drinkware and totes, blankets and bandanas, really any kind of swag you can imagine that features your logo or message. They're experts at finding or creating the right products for the season and the reason that fit your budget and timeline. Check out the GPS website at gpslasvegas.com, where there's a world of products to promote your brand.
Las Vegas has been the setting for countless movies and TV shows, an inspiration for popular songs, but did you know there's scores of wonderful novels set in our city too? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we talk with acclaimed born and raised author Charles Bock. LitHub recently singled out his acclaimed 2008 novel, Beautiful Children, as the novel for the city, and this month, Business Insider dubbed him Nevada's most famous author. We talk about what makes a great Vegas work of fiction, and we name names of our favorites. We're in the middle of our fall membership campaign, so I want to thank all of you who have already made that leap to support our podcast. Promise you'll be getting those tote bags soon. And if you haven't yet, we've got more information for you later in the show. It's Wednesday, October 23rd. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Charles, I have a book club. It's only three of us, me and two local-based writers, where we only read works with a Las Vegas or city-adjacent connection. What do you like to see in a Vegas novel that can make it great?
David, that's a really good question. If you were doing a historical novel, a novel set in 1980s Vegas, you would ask certain things of the city, which would be it's growing, it would obviously have mob influence, and the tentacles of modernity would be moving forward. If you were going to be doing 60s or 50s Vegas, you would have a different thing happening. Very much race, very much you would want it to reflect mob, Godfather, Rat Pack Vegas. If you were doing 1905, it would be something else. I think this 21st century Vegas is really interesting because Las Vegas is now a great American city. And so how do you represent that and at the same time still make it be the things that are Vegas?
And in the novels that you've read about Las Vegas over the years, what Vegas tropes do you think are maybe overdone at this point?
It's an interesting question. How do you write about Vegas without making it Vegas-y? You know, how do you not be over the top? How do you not deal with Sin City, entertainment capital of the world? Tupac got shot here. Mike Tyson has statues of him on the Strip. But at the same time, George Saunders, let's say, as a short story writer, has done everything you could possibly do, or it seems has reached certain limits of what we can do with Civil War land in bad decline, kind of the extremities of an entertainment-based society. And with Vegas, there is that feeling of, we know it. We know. How do you make something about a city that everyone assumes they know, that does justice to it, and that also deals with the inner lives of people who are caught in this crazy whirligig of a machine?
One of the authors in my book club says, you know, the great ones for her are the ones that address the cliches, because it is in many ways something that shapes the perception and the reality of our city, but also has the ability to work through those cliches.
Right. You have to accept and kind of frame things in these landmarks. But then either you're going to blow them up or you're going to move into the lives of the people who keep the facade running, or who are caught in the hamster wheel, or whatever metaphor I'm going to mangle next. Because at the end, characters and lives do make stories. We may want systems novels, we may want giant injustice or to show the tears of society, but we're going to care about people who get stuck in it. Leaving Las Vegas as a book may not be the best written book ever, but you care. It matters to you. This guy is blowing up his life, and he's there to blow his brains out and to drink himself to death. Can he stop himself? Can love stop him? That makes for a good book.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that that was a book before it was the famous movie with Nicolas Cage. The one that he won the Oscar for, Leaving Las Vegas, was a shorter novel by the author John O'Brien. I do want to shout out Krista Diamond. She was the one that in my book club who came up with that idea about the cliches. But let's just jump into it then, Charles, and talk about some great Vegas novels. I want to talk about those fictional works that you think, Charles, should be on everyone's reading list. So what's your first pick?
My first pick is a crazy book. A guy spent 10 years writing it, and he went for it in every sentence. He tried to talk about teen runaways in Vegas, the adult side.
I think I know where this is leading. What's the name of this book, sir?
It's a sweet little book called Beautiful Children, and I wrote it.
Yes, you went for it.
Not to pat myself too much on the back.
Okay. All right. Well, I think a lot of people love that book. It got so much love from the New York Times. Tell me about why you think that is a seminal Vegas book.
I tried to write about the Vegas that I grew up in, which in its own way was a dark place, and which was something that I spent my teens, my 20s, and even into my 30s trying to come to terms with. My parents are pawnbrokers, and every day I grew up and I saw people come in and they had lost all their money, and now they were pawning a wedding ring, not so they could go home, but so they could go back to a casino and try and win their money back. And my parents got kind of stuck with having to tell them that their ring wasn't worth what they thought it was worth.
Mm-hmm.
I tried in fiction to reflect the Las Vegas and its tears that I saw. We grew up in a Vegas, because I've known you for a little while, that did have the Riviera Crazy Girls on roadside billboards. It was a wild place.
The no ifs, ands, or proverbial buts on display. Yeah.
It was iconic. It like what Vegas was. It was the Wild West, and it was also pretty dark. I tried to write about a kid who vanishes from the middle of that and everything that swirls around it. And it moved into the adult side of Vegas.
And you know, Charles, I think the thing that is going to be in common for all the books that we talk about is that there is great writing in there. I mean, that's kind of the given. You make passages about traffic on Sahara resonate with me that makes me think about it for whenever I reread Beautiful Children, and I have a couple of times. It sticks with me. I want to go off of that too. And there's another book that I love that talk about the suburbs or our neighboring municipalities. I consider all of Las Vegas Valley to be one Las Vegas, really, the metro area. So the book that I want to throw out there is called We Are Called to Rise by Laura McBride. This was a book that was clearly inspired by a headline that captured the attention of a lot of people here. It was, a police-involved shooting of a woman from an immigrant family that had settled in Las Vegas. They had an ice cream truck. I'm not going to give away too much of the plot, but really the way that Laura talked about the immigrant experience and the ability of a place like Las Vegas to be the true melting pot of our country, where so many different communities and cultures coexist and sometimes press up against each other. I felt it was a really beautiful novel, and one that's important if you want to really understand our city and its operation, especially in that time frame. I think that book is an excellent example of the canon of Vegas writing.
It's one of the rare books that actually deals with race and immigration, topics which right now are part of the future of the city, certainly the present of the city, and which in some ways have torn the city apart because of different opinions on it. And she's kind of writing from the ground floor. And one of the seminal incidents in terms of the last 20, 30 years that was the basis for the novel. But she is able to slow things down.
What do you think that people will learn from a book like We Are Called to Rise about Las Vegas?
I think there won't be any stereotypes of Vegas as just a place of the Strip and nothing else. Away from the nation state of the Strip, that there are people who are engaged in a very normal struggle of how do we live? How do we pay rent? How do we get by? There's people who have come to Vegas to try and make a life for themselves, to try and establish something for themselves, and then deal with the swirl of difficulties that can come when you're viewed as an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
What we love from novels is when it's different, but the humanity in it connects us and creates a bond. And Laura is able to do that.
What's another pick for a favorite Las Vegas novel, Charles?
Since you brought up Laura and a book that is based on a real event, I'm also going to throw in Phillip David Mullens. He is from Vegas. He went to Bishop Gorman High School. He has a novel called The Brightest Place in the World. It is based off, I think, late 80s, early 90s. There was a giant chemical explosion in Henderson.
Sure. Timette, the famous Timette explosion.
Yes. He wrote a novel based off that. And it also has some intrigue. It has a guy who pretends to be a clergyman who's also like trying to scam a casino downtown. It has affairs and a marriage falling apart. I think it's worth reading, and it's certainly worth seeking out.
There are so many things that seem to happen in our weird little city. It's no surprise that they're inspiration for novels. I know that you and I have shared an affinity for a part of Las Vegas that definitely inspires intrigue and more exploration, and that's Vu Tran's Dragonfish. Tell me what you love about that novel.
I love a couple things about Vu Tran and Dragonfish. I love that it's a lot of it is in downtown Las Vegas, which is an area very near and dear to my heart. I also love that some of it takes place in the Chinatown section and deals with, like, there's mobs and noir in that book, but it comes from areas that previously I don't think had been written about, specifically with the Chinese community. And the Chinese underworld.
Yeah, no, being on Spring Mountain, I mean, he brings it to life in a way that we look at this all the time, and some of it is inviting and some of it is mysterious to us just because there's so many spots, so many places, and Vu really sort of takes us on a journey through it, doesn't he?
He does. I've been told that from people who kind of know this stuff, that area of Chinatown has as good of food as anywhere outside of China in the world, that the restaurants there are that good. Vu takes us into the restaurants, into the back rooms, into the people financing stuff. There's parts of that book that are deeply scary, where you think that the protagonist is going to die in a parking lot. He's going to get shot, and that is going to be it for him. He wrote a really good book, and he wrote it about parts of Vegas that are not immediately apparent as something that is a natural subject. And so he gets extra points for that. That is always exciting to get to venture into rooms that we don't normally think of going into.
I also like how, he has the gentle hand where you don't feel like the culture that he is talking about is in any way exploited. But just simply matter of fact, serving what turns into a little bit of noir, but really is an interesting piece about the arc of the characters, which is fundamental novel 101 done well here.
Hi, David Plotz here. I'm the CEO of CityCast. And I want to talk to you about becoming a member of your local CityCast. By now, you've probably heard the team behind your local podcast talk about why you should become a member. But I want to tell you why I hope you'll consider becoming a member. We started CityCast because we believe cities are amazing and that they're at their best when they're full of passionate people who know what's going on and are actually engaged in them. But it's pretty hard to know what's going on in your city and how to be part of it. and how to change it. That's why we bring you daily local podcasts and newsletters made by locals for locals that are informative and joyful and funny and completely unique to your city. But it takes a ton of effort and your support to keep us going. If this show has helped make you a better resident of your city, first of all, that is great. And second of all, please help make sure we can keep on making it. Become a member of your local CityCast at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. And thank you. Everyone on our team will see and appreciate your support.
Hey listeners, before we jump back into that conversation, I am here with producer Layla Muhammad, and we are holding something pretty special in our hands right now. It is our brand new CityCast Las Vegas tote bag, and I am seriously obsessed with this thing.
Same, David. We're right in the middle of our fall membership campaign, and all week we've been talking about how important members are to our team and what we do.
So if you're still on the fence about becoming a member, well, let me sweeten the deal. Join this week and you'll get one of these amazing CityCast Las Vegas tote bags, and I promise this is not just another tote bag to toss into the closet.
No, it is not. I just feel like tote bags are so essential in Las Vegas, whether you're carrying around a water bottle in the summer or that emergency extra layer pretty much any other time of the year. I love having a tote for those items to free up my hands. I'm looking at it right now, and we really put a lot of thought into designing it with Las Vegas in mind, brainstorming what it means to be a true Las Vegas local. And some of that inside local Las Vegas knowledge I think that people don't know is that we have beavers in Las Vegas. Did you know that, David?
You know, I'm going to have to admit my ignorance. I did not know that until I heard the episode, but I do love the little guy who shows up on the tote bag. He's so cute.
Yes, we have an icon of a beaver on our tote bag, and that comes from one of our episodes that we actually did. We talk a lot about the amazing outdoor spaces in Las Vegas, and you can actually find beavers at Wetlands Park in Henderson.
I love how lightweight this is too. It's perfect because you don't need like a whole suitcase of a tote bag. And I got to say, I lobbied very hard for the shrimp cocktail icon, and I was thrilled with the way that it came out. We did an episode about how shrimp cocktails, which are not from our desert, made it big, and I cannot wait for you, the makers and shakers of our city, to be sporting one of these tote bags.
But there is a catch. The only way to get this exclusive CityCast Las Vegas tote is by joining our member community this week during our fall campaign. Beyond the tote, you'll also be getting the satisfaction of supporting local journalism that keeps Las Vegas informed and engaged.
We do love this city as much as you do, and your support helps us keep telling the stories that make Las Vegas so special. So head on over to membership.citycast.fm to become a member today, and we'll send you that tote in the mail. That's membership.citycast.fm. Now back to the conversation. You know, Las Vegas does seem to be a natural for noir. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, because one, it's super dark. Two, it lends itself to an extreme ending one way or another. Like the stakes have to rise. Also, let's throw in noir needs a femme fatale. Vegas is very easy to come up with femme fatale. It's a great place for that. And the nature of Vegas has like damaged people looking for second chances.
Trying to make the best of the hand that they're dealt, but sometimes it seems that the system's against them and the house always wins. The trope that you work right through, and it makes great noir, so why not Vegas?
Right, and also that because schemes, like people with get-rich schemes, Vegas is for that. That's, you know, it's how it was built on with that, and it's for that. So it makes itself a natural landscape. And because, again, it is a all or nothing place. The casinos are there for a reason.
Yeah. I want to throw some more pulp on that noir fire. The writer P.Moss, who is really well known for being a bar impresario, he has Frankie's and the Double Down and others. He's a fantastic writer. And I think that the most representative of his work is a book called Dead Ringer. It is inspired by the Howard Hughes legend. And without giving too much of this really crazy and sometimes very profane, but in a very wonderful way, and a way that serves the novel. There's a doppelganger of Hughes who is kind of on the loose, and they're trying to track him down as a shady deal is about to go down that will change the face of Las Vegas. The attention to historical detail of that era, that late 60s, early 70s, is some of the best writing of that time in Las Vegas that I've ever read. And it's just such a fun read. I mean, as far as something written by someone from here, of here, who knows how to write about the city, Dead Ringer is one of my favorites, especially of noir. Charles, tell me about the most famous book of our city, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson.
Well, Fear and Loathing is canonical. It was originally published, as reportage in Rolling Stone. But then when it came out as a book, they did call it a novel. So there's this question, and it's obviously, Hunter Thompson in the new nonfiction or whatever it was called. There's obviously that question of how much do we trust this guy who's whacked out, from the first sentence is whacked out of his brains on drugs in his portrayal of things. He, is the person where he says the American dream is damaged and dark, and the heart of its darkness can be found and plays out in Las Vegas. And that is why it is an important book, because he goes for it. Even though he's whacked out of his effing mind, he sees everything and is the truth teller, supposedly. And he's writing about Vegas, but Vegas becomes a symbol for America's corruptness, for America's, how it's rotted.
Is it a successful book? Is it a book in retrospect that holds up despite its many criticisms, like just how horrible he is to the service workers that are the backbone of Las Vegas, and other misogynistic and similar criticisms?
You know what? It's a dated book. There's no way to pretend it's not dated. There's also no way to ignore it. There's no, you can't write around it. Or pretend it doesn't exist. It will always be one of the things, if you're talking about the literature of Vegas, you know what? Capote and In Cold Blood, the killers get caught in Vegas. Donna, Tartt, Goldfinch, and the kind of lazy afternoons where time doesn't seem to pass and the heat kind of spreads through everything. I think that those passages will always stay with Vegas. Hunter Thompson and Fear and Loathing, it's always going to be part of the discussion.
Yeah. And Donna Tartt's Goldfinch, made into a film, Fear and Loathing, made into a film, really lent itself to cementing it in the Vegas canon. Charles, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Have you ever been disappointed in a Vegas novel, like something that just failed for you?
I'm not going to name names because I wouldn't do that to anybody. You know what? It's really hard to write a book. It's really hard to write a bad book. It's really hard to write a first draft. And then the answer is absolutely yes.
Can you anonymize it to the point where you could tell me what failed about it for you?
I think it can be easy to lose character for the sake of spectacle. And then Vegas makes it very easy to do that. But for any author, keeping a book on track through the second half of your first novel is really, really hard.
There's some interesting entries in the Vegas canon, I think, that we haven't talked about. There's a little book called Desert Rose by Larry McMurtry. There's a book that comes in and out of Las Vegas a little bit called I Love You, But I've Chosen Darkness by Vaye Watkins that has one of my favorite Vegas lines in it of all time.
What's the line?
Charles, the line is, "You have to be careful in Las Vegas. The place will be whatever you need it to be."
That's a good line.
That's a great line.
She has a short story collection, Brattleborn, and it has my favorite Las Vegas short story is in that collection about two girls in a hotel room.
No, that's one of my favorite collections of short stories. I also want to mention, Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion as a Vegas work of fiction, essentially a novel. A lot of them are written by people who aren't from here. And, we've mentioned a variety of writers, but, most of the writers are kind of, let's just say, of a certain category. And I'm wondering, Charles, why do you think that there aren't more representative voices from our very diverse city in fiction?
That's a very good question. Vegas was and has been dominated by kind of a certain white male. A lot of 20th century canonical Western lit is white males. That time is over. And Vegas now as a super city is going to be harder to write about because all the tiers get in the way and to try and take it on with a 1,000-page book, I think is a mistake. It'll have to be smaller and more focused. But I think it's coming. We're on the front end of the tail. The history of the city is going to a new place. As long as Vegas has money, it will be significant, and it's going to have money for a long time. And that means people will write about it. But the city is evolving, and the people who are going to look at it are the class and the races of people are evolving as well. Our canon is thankfully evolving in that way. And I think the literature of Vegas will expand in that manner too. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Very hopeful. And, it's interesting when you just said that, you talked about the tiers, and I realized you were saying TIERS, the tiers of our culture here, society. But I also had it as tears, because there's a lot of those here too.
Oh, that's even better. That's more poetic.
Right? Al, that's the heart of me. Well, Charles Bock, I'm so glad to talk about Vegas novels with you. And I'm also excited that you're going to be coming to town Tuesday, October 29th, where you'll be doing a reading at the Writer's Block, downtown Las Vegas at 7 p.m. You'll be doing a reading from your new memoir, which is partially set in Las Vegas because it's about your life, called I Will Do Better, which I've had the pleasure of reading, and it is really fantastic. I'm so looking forward to seeing you there.
This was an absolute pleasure, David. Thank you for having me, and thank you to your listeners. I appreciate it so much. I love CityCast. I love Las Vegas. All the best to you.
And a quick reminder that our fall campaign is underway right now. So become a CityCast Las Vegas member, and not only will you get all the good feelings and the great perks, but if you join during the campaign, you'll also receive an exclusive CityCast Las Vegas tote bag. Just head to membership.citycast.fm and join right now. And if you're already a member, thank you. We could not do this work without you. And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, go tell a friend. You could rate our show, leave us a review, read a book about Las Vegas and leave a review of that for us, and also subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.